This is Leaders Who Scale, and I'm Jeff Siegel. I've worked with thousands of companies over the years, and I'm fascinated by seeing how many of them grow and scale. Join me as we learn from the leaders of growing companies and share that knowledge. Leaders Who Scale is sponsored by Siegel Solutions, providing world-class accounting, advisory, and QuickBooks and Acumatica Cloud ERP services. Today's guest is a longtime transportation industry expert who grew up working in his family's trucking company. Actually, he's fifth generation to work in the industry. He's an East to West Coast carrier and back, the president and owner of McMillan Transport. I want to welcome Scott Law.
Thank you, Jeff. Pleasure to be here. Really looking forward to sharing some insights today, if I can.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. About your the business, how you're trying to grow it, where you're at, actually how you even got into it. Obviously, I think you said, we said you've been in there for your whole family's been in it for years. So we could chat about that in a couple of minutes too.
Excellent. Okay.
So I'd love to know what in this day and age, what's happening in the world, like what is the most challenging aspect of trying to grow your business?
Well, for trucking, there are multiple. The first two that are the biggest are drivers.
Mhm.
Number one, retaining is not as tough as obtaining. Retaining is tough, but just finding new drivers is really hard these days, especially for my business, which is over the road long haul. That's even harder. So that's certainly issue number one, or hurdle number one. Hurdle number two is equipment. Equipment is just becoming extremely scarce and therefore extremely expensive. And parts are also becoming a major problem. So I recently had a truck that was shut down for a month and a half.
Oh, wow.
Because it was broken down and there was a part that just couldn't come in. And I ended up another driver of mine went out on medical leave due to a hurt shoulder. I took the parts from that truck and shipped them to Oklahoma to the truck that was broken down. And then my truck sat for a month and a half until the new parts came in. It's certainly become an issue. And then trailers as well. I was going to buy 2 new trailers this year. That's my regular schedule, and they're just not available. So I've been able to order one to come in third or fourth quarter this year, and where they tipped the last trailer I bought was $33,000. They're saying this one is going to be between $56,000 and $77,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are certainly some significant challenges to trucking right now.
Yeah.
The good news is that trucking is also paying very well right now. So we can offset a lot of that cost with rates.
What is you mentioned tough to get drivers because it's over the road, which they basically stay in the truck.
Correct. Yeah.
All the way to the West Coast, if that's what you're doing.
Yep. Exactly.
Is there like an average age group of these drivers?
Yes and no. I mean, the industry certainly, I don't remember, gosh, I go to these conferences where they give out these statistics and I don't remember what the average age is. And we learned that back in February, but it's pretty old still. And that's an issue the trucking industry is having. We're struggling getting new younger drivers in, particularly right out of high school. Or the trade school. And so the industry is trying to do a lot to improve that. And it needs to be done. I've been lucky. I've been able to get a few of the younger drivers. So that's important. It's a big piece.
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you even before this call, my son just got his license, CDL Class A, but he's in what he thinks is like one of these starter type companies to take on new drivers. But I'm just curious because a lot of companies won't take on somebody unless they've been driving for 2 years. So
Myself included.
yeah,
I cannot my insurance company will not allow me to take, or will not insure
Okay.
a driver that has less than 2 years experience. So a huge barrier to entry for the younger age drivers. So
Yeah.
these large carriers who are self-insured can set up these programs, and they're oftentimes very good training programs. Some of my drivers have proven to me that some of the safety stuff and driving stuff that they learned came from some of these big carriers, which is really neat. The problem has come, in my estimation, when these drivers then graduate, they're not getting enough income from these large carriers to be able to stay in the business. So where it's a great launching point, I see time and time again where these drivers will come out of these schools, try to stay with these large carriers, but they're not getting the miles, or they're taking on a leased truck where they're responsible for all costs of that truck. The truck breaks down and they can't afford to fix it. So it sits and then they are out of money.
Yeah.
So I think the industry needs to improve on that. But thankfully, we do have these large carriers who are providing this schooling. And our local, in my state, the state of New Hampshire, there are schools here that are trying to provide that training, but I still can't hire them right out of the school because they don't have the 2 years experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure what that 2 years was, but it does sound like, well, like you just mentioned, it's an insurance thing, and they probably everybody. I'm sure there's only certain insurance companies that actually cover truckers and truck companies. So yeah.
Yes, it's and to a lesser extent that's become a small issue. It's not really significant, but it is every year. It seems like there are less and less insurance carriers that want to be in this business.
Yeah.
They talked about these nuclear verdicts, insurance verdicts, and they are true.
Hmm.
There's a statistic that I saw in a seminar that I attended this last spring, that if a child is involved in an accident, the cost is tenfold what it would be if there are no children involved. So these nuclear verdicts are not false. They really are happening.
I mean, what do you think of that? Not to get off course here, but what did you think about that driver who, obviously his sentence got changed, but he originally had like life in prison, that the accident there that he caused that major.
Which one was that? The one in New York or New Hampshire?
No, I think it was in New York. He didn't use the runaway ramp and
yes,
control and
right,
cause, unfortunately.
Right. And that's, that is an interesting one. I'm not overly familiar with it, but so I didn't even realize he got life.
He got young kid. I think it was about 23. I think he got life, but there was enough uproar about it that they did change his sentence. But yeah, so.
Oh, that's pretty scary, and is going to be a black eye, obviously, on the trucking industry, and a deterrent for young people to come into the industry.
Yeah.
So it's a very delicate balance. We are stewards of the road. I tell my drivers, there is nothing more important in that truck, and I point right at them, and I say, than you and the people around you. It is that critical. Lives are at stake, and we are deemed a safety sensitive position, a driver position. Yeah. And there's a reason why, and that is a perfect example as to why. It can be pretty scary.
So anyway, so to get back on topic, so you've been running this business. When you actually bought McMillan?
I did. I worked for my family for 20 some odd years, and then my brother took over the family business, and I decided I wanted to do my own thing. And I found this long haul trucking company that this husband and wife had started in 1979, hauling beef from the Midwest to the West Coast. And I really liked it. Small 8-truck company, so we're not terribly huge. And I really liked what I could be able to do with this company, and that is to grow it, provide a family atmosphere that would attract drivers, because I know when I bought it back 10 years ago, the industry was in a bit of transition.
Mhm.
All these older drivers aging out and not as many younger drivers. So I knew that there was going to coming in. So I knew that there was going to be a high demand for trucking, and there certainly is. And I've been able to capture the family atmosphere, and that helps the drivers want to stay here. If they can call me in the middle of the night at home, they like that. So,
Nice. So you've been, how many years did you say had this now?
well, since June of 2011.
11. Okay. All right. So a little over 10 years, 11
Yeah,
years.
just a tad over 10.
Yeah. Nice. So I know you're trying to grow it. Did you talk about, because it's a small family-owned business considered. Talk about kind of like the management team, or I guess, I know it can't be that big. Maybe it's just you and another person, or you're trying to add. Just curious how you manage the company, especially if you're trying to grow.
Yeah, and that's a big piece of trucking. Trucking is like the restaurant business, not a high profit margin business. It's a small profit margin business. But if you run it right, you can do just fine with it. You can do very well with it. So running lean is important. So we have a staff here of 3, a dispatcher, an administrator, and myself. And at 8 trucks, that's about the minimum amount of trucks I want to have, because in some ways I'm almost overstaffed. In the winter, when it gets a little slow, my staff needs help with work to keep them busy. So knowing that, my analysis says I can get up to 12 trucks for the 3-person office staff that I have, the dispatcher, myself, and the administrator. Once we get above that, it would probably get to be a little too much, too many phone calls for dispatch, too much paperwork to process. And because we do a lot of cross training, so when my dispatcher is out on lunch, my administrator can fill in when the phone call from the customer comes in and says, hey, I have a problem. And we want to be responsive all the time and not have the phone go, well, we're at lunch, please leave a message. So that's why we do a lot of cross training. So it's an important piece of providing that high quality customer service, that highly reliable service that we do provide.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we do it with 3 people. And that's certainly the right number for us.
And as far as your day-to-day, do you find yourself doing some of the dispatching and other type work? Where is that fine line between the working on versus in the business?
Well, a perfect example, just before this call, right? I'm getting ready to do our podcast here, and my administrator stepped out, and my dispatcher is not here right now. So I take the phone call to my most important customer. There's a problem. I think I have to deal with this, right? So I did, and that's fine. But that's just the way it goes sometimes. And the beauty is, when she came back, I was able to communicate to her what's going on quickly. She understood it. I could back off into my office for this podcast, and she.
Mhm. Are there certain, as you try to grow, as you run your business, are there certain metrics that you monitor and watch, like, I don't know, revenue per truck or
Oh
percentage
yeah.
repairs per
Yep.
whatever? Just curious. Yeah.
Oh yeah, revenue per truck, revenue per mile.
Per mile.
For us, we're being a long haul trucker, everything comes down to per mile. So really it's revenue per mile, cost per mile. And then of course we break it down. Fuel mileage is really important for us. And that's a huge metric. Our biggest expense by far is fuel. And then the next one right under that, about the same as labor. And then right that way drop down is the third, and everything else. Fuel is just 70% more than anything else. So we have to watch that carefully. So we have a lot of metrics for that. And of course we have a KPI, key performance indicator tracking system, where we track everything from driver and customer miles and load numbers and miles per gallon, all kinds of statistics to let us know for customers, where is that customer's performance? Are they giving us more freight this week or less freight this week? What's going on with them? And then the same with the drivers. Are the drivers performing to their standards or not? And of course, I have bonuses for the drivers if they
Yeah.
do. So
I assume that's an industry specific software, right? That you took. I haven't seen anything in.
no, it's Microsoft Excel.
Oh,
So,
okay.
a little plug for Bill Gates there. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's literally just a huge Excel spreadsheet that I have set up, and
yeah,
we do use QuickBooks, and we can export some of it out,
sure.
but a lot of it we can't. So because they do come from different sources, the trucking industry moved to what's called electronic logbooks
Yeah,
a few years now, so that we now have to have a tablet in every truck that electronically records the driver's drive time. So we get some statistics from that, miles per gallon, miles driven, etc. And those can't be dumped out into the spreadsheet. We manually handle.
yeah. Is that something you do or your administrator doesn't?
My administrator does it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she does a really good job, and it makes a difference. As an owner, it's one of the greatest tools I use to have good information on a weekly basis, to be able to make my decisions as far as working on the company versus in the company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great system you have, whether it's an Excel or where the data is coming from, because like you just said, you probably am able to make decisions even way ahead of time. If you, as you're watching some trends,
That's exactly it. Trends is everything. For me, we do that with the KPIs. We do that with our weekly payables, accounts payables, our accounts receivables, cash flow, trucking, because it's not a high profit margin business. Cash flow is very important, so we have to stay on top of that.
Yeah. Other, you hear like on commercials, these trucking companies who are, they pay by the mile, they pay by the load, or they do so many miles, they actually get bonuses. Is that tough to track all that stuff?
Not today, because of these electronic logs. They provide a lot of benefits, these electronic logs do, and one of them is that information at our fingertips at any given time and in any given database style analysis. We can say, show me this truck's miles per gallon for this date range. Boom, show it to me now. Show it to me by the driver. Now show it to me for just the winter months, because winter is always harder for good fuel mileage because it's so cold. I wish the industry had gone to these Z-logs years ago, because they're fantastic in reality. They also allow us to do what is called coaching in the industry. So I know if my driver made a hard turn or had a hard braking scenario out in California, boom, it happened. I get an email that tells me that. And we use these as coaching tools to say, okay, driver A, here's your record of hard braking or hard turns or miles, MPG for the last X number of date range, and here's where we want you to be. So we use it more of a coaching tool versus a discipline tool.
Interesting.
And that's been effective. We didn't come up with this ourselves. Going to trucking conferences, the National Truckload Care Association, that's where I learned how to do that, and it's been great.
Yeah. Can you actually compare? It sounds like you can compare two truck drivers that are doing roughly the same mileage en route, possibly, and see that there's probably differences in certain areas, right?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, you can pull the same amount of miles. Now it is interesting. So you will see, I used to know this. One driver would drive one truck for me, and this was before e-logs. and he'd get horrible fuel mileage, and the truck would always be breaking down. I would swap him out and put him in a different truck.
Yeah.
Problem solved. The maintenance problems go away and the fuel miles excellent. So bingo, that was the driver. But now we get that information much faster, and we can use it as a coaching scenario to say, hey, driver A, we want you to be within this fuel mile MPG range. You're not. Here's how we want to get you there. And we use it as a coaching tool rather than a discipline. Hey, one more of these and you're gone kind of thing.
Right.
And it helps us retain drivers, coaching versus discipline. There obviously are times when it gets to that point, but at least we've done our due diligence and tried everything we can to keep that driver.
And I'm sure it's the drivers see that as well. I mean, with all the new vehicles today, average miles per gallon, they probably have a lot of that information anyway.
Right.
They're probably more conscious of it.
And they're very interested in it. And they, as you had alluded to, they're very interested in how do I match up to my peers?
Yeah.
So that's a big motivator that we try to use. But it's tough. You can't say, okay, driver, you can't show names. Because
right.
Well, hey, that's not fair. You're showing me in this bad light, and I drove down to LA and it was super, super hot that week. So of course I ran the air conditioner, so you have to be careful and work it, but
yeah,
it can be a very valuable tool. And in fact, they have cameras now. These e-log companies are putting cameras in their trucks. Now we have dash cams that are not live. They sit there and they record on a SIM card every time it fills up. But if our driver gets in an accident, we pull that SIM card and we have a video of what's been looking out that windshield. But these e-log companies are taking coaching another step further now, and they're putting interior facing cameras into the trucks. So that if a driver is driving, the camera will actually watch the eyes. If the driver looks down like this for too long, beep, 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 the camera will notify the driver.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat.
Absolutely.
So then if too many of those happen, there's your coaching moment there. Now, I don't have those yet. The price hasn't come down quite enough to make it effective, but that's going to be our next step. We have already started looking into those.
Yeah, some luxury cars have those features.
Yeah.
Looking at watching your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think the way of the future for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for insurance companies, because they love them. And these cameras we purchased and I put in my truck, they're fantastic. They have saved us many, many times.
Interesting. So your team is 3 people right now, you, the dispatcher, and the administrative person. And we were talking about you maybe bringing on or trying to find like a general manager.
Right. Exactly. In actuality, my dispatcher had to resign due to health issues. And so he is actually gone and I'm working without him right now. So I've also opened a property management company, another side company with my son. Okay. And my dispatcher was supposed to take over more of a general manager's role to help alleviate my workload from my trucking company. But he unfortunately got health issues. So I'm looking to hire a general manager now. So the beauty of this is I'm finding a lot better candidate as general in my search for general manager versus my search for dispatcher. So this is going to help me grow. And it was kind of an accidental offense type of a scenario, but something told me, don't just look for a dispatcher, look for somebody who's going to be able to bring more. And so I'm really looking forward to that, because all the general manager applicants that I've been interviewing have a great deal more opportunity for me to grow the company. I can see it right from the get-go. And I wish I had seen this before. Because I've always thought, just bring in a dispatcher who, maybe was an old driver, or, and don't expect too much from a dispatcher. Well, I'm really glad that I've switched to look for a general manager, because I can see right now, this is going to be my path to growth. Because every time I say to myself, it's time to grow the company again. Here I go. What's my business plan? Well, I get too tied up working in the business and not on the business. And so this I'm really excited about, because as I said, I want to grow from 8 to about 12 trucks, maybe 14. And everybody I talk to, the general manager role has had experience in that, and much more confident that they're going to bring me there than my old model of just hiring a dispatcher and thinking I was going to do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we all, like, I'm a businessman as well, and a lot of people I talk to, we all get wrapped up in the business, and sometimes we fail to hire people that may be smarter than us.
Right.
That's one thing. And
Yep.
once and I know even I've hired people as well that are taking on a lot more of the roles, the stuff that I do. I'm finding that, okay, now I'm seeing my own business in a different light. Like, it's okay, I've got this filled, I've got that filled. Now, how do I grow it?
Right.
Before that point, it's, the business is growing organically and, doing well. But if really to scale, you got to bring those players, and
Exactly.
it opens your mind up as well.
It does. And it's funny because initially my hesitation to go from a dispatcher to a general manager was the cost associated with that, with their salary, right?
Yep.
Well, I didn't do enough analysis at first to say, if I bring in this person, but he almost doubles my income, he'll more than pay for himself. So and he's going to take the day-to-day load off of my back, so I can again do less work in the business and more work on the business. Because my next step in scaling my business will be maintenance. Right now, I farm out my truck maintenance to a local company, and I want to be able to purchase my own maintenance company or start my own maintenance company and start doing my own maintenance and other maintenance. So that's another benefit to going to general manager for me, is that I hope I can make that next jump up to getting my own maintenance.
Yeah, well, you probably will. So don't just say you hope, right? So
that's the plan, right?
That's the plan, exactly. It's not can I, it's how can I, right?
Right, that's right.
Yeah, so they say, no, that sounds great. We're going through our own growth in our own business, and we brought in an implementer to implement EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's based on that book Traction. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or read it, but it lays out kind of, a lot of it's common sense, but they kind of lay it out in a system that makes sense. And if you follow it, I think it puts you're in the mindset, because I think it's the other thing is the mindset.
Right.
Grow.
I agree.
And it's looking at the people, looking at your process, your core values. There's a lot to it. But when you start thinking that way and operating that way, you'll grow. I mean, I don't think you could fail.
Right.
So
well, and that's the thing for me. I've always been successful when I would plan something out, because really most things can be worked out in advance, and the implementation is just a product or just a matter of going through the steps. It's really the planning, because what I find is when I'm in the planning mode, that's where I find out, okay, that's not going to work. I need to move this. So I'm being proactive versus reactive. Yeah. And if you're being proactive versus reactive, I think your success rate is significantly higher.
Yeah. And then the planning, years ago, I was in a session, someone said, and I'm sure multiple people have said this, but you can't get there from here, but you can get here from there. And
I love
Yeah,
that.
well, to figure it out, it's like, okay, that's right. I got to see the end.
Right, that's right,
I can then move forward. So,
that's right.
you know,
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
yeah, yeah. So I always remember that. I think I was 20 years ago when I first heard that in some kind
I
of
love those.
somewhere. And so curious on like the sales side. So is your business such that you have the same clients and you're just doing the, contract for them like every day, week, however this thing works, or do you constantly bring in new clients?
Well, no, it's mostly repetitive work or repeat work for the same clients, because for me, I'm kind of typically what in the industry it's called a contract carrier.
Okay.
So typically, contract carriers, you commit X number of trucks, X number of drivers, X number of trailers, so resources, and they commit to X number of loads in a given time period. So they call it contract carriage, but in today's day and age, nobody signs contracts anymore to actually do that. So it's all word of mouth. But that's where my business model is more dealing with customers on a repeat basis, the same customers on a repeat basis.
Mhm.
I specialize in what I call dedicated moves more than as much as I can. So for instance, my largest customer here in New Hampshire is the world leader in translucent wall panels for large museums, schools, high-end buildings. I commit to them minimum 2 trucks a week to bring their product to the West Coast. Now I get empty on the West Coast, and I have to use freight brokers to get home, but I commit to them that I will get them home in time to take the next loads out, so that I always have circulating trucks that are available to them. And then I have another local division that I call a local division, where I do only dedicated work. It's repeat work every week. It's typically the same thing. I'm picking there's a beanbag company in the city I'm in, Nashville, New Hampshire, and I bring in the little beans for the beanbag. And every day I run a trailer out to Cohost, New York, to get those beans and bring them back. And so my regional operation is made up of that dedicated work, 80%, and my long haul is probably 90% dedicated. Because there is the business out there called for hire, and technically I do the for hire work from the West Coast back, but I'm only out on the West Coast because of my contract work going on.
So is that a challenge? Just you try to negotiate or figure out, okay, I'm bringing something out to the West Coast, I got to come back. So can I take a load back as a for hire load? Is that what ends up happening?
It is. That's exactly it. So I'm going out to the freight market board, which is out there. It's freight brokers, C.H. Robinson, Trinity Logistics, Coyote Logistics, and I'm going to them saying, okay, what do you have for loads coming back? And it's one of the best barometers, ironically, of the economy, because the rates change based on the economic engine. Every week it changes. And so it's really interesting to see. I will see signs of rates dropping, and then you see it in the stock market or in the American economy down the road. Or the opposite, you see it building up, and I see it first. It's really a very interesting market to be in.
You should start buying and selling stocks, right?
I know, well, it feels like, I feel like I'm, or a hedge fund, or something.
I'm sure that somewhere there's some hedge fund or stockbrokers that watch the trucking market that gauge.
I'd be very interested to find them, to hear about them. My consulting business is ready.
Yeah, there you go.
Is another way I can scale.
No, so this all sounds awesome. So it's right now, you're growing, you're trying to grow, you're trying to go from 8 to 12. It sounds like this general manager, when you bring this person in, is going to allow you to kind of hopefully get up to 12 faster. And
Yeah.
what do you see even long term? Is that kind of your kind of sweet spot that you kind of say, I'm not looking to have 25 trucks or anything. I just, this is family owned, and I'm just curious.
It is. It is the sweet spot. I don't see myself getting over 20 trucks.
Okay.
Just because I'm 56 now, my children have zero interest in taking the business over. So I'm going to be the last one to own it. And it's my passion. I love it. I know I'm going to work into my 70s, but I hope I'm not working into my 80s. So what I think I would do is scale up in other ways, like the maintenance division, something to that effect. I've been potentially looking, once the real estate boom bursts or bubble bursts, I might try to look for a commercial building that I could operate out of, but also use it as a commercial leasing scenario where I could lease out space to potential other trucking companies or landscapers or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, could you see yourself even getting into the freight brokerage market? Yeah.
That was a something I had considered. I almost bought another trucking company that does have a freight brokerage division. I don't have a lot of experience in it other than on my end. So maybe, but it's not in the actual plans.
Sure. Yeah. I was just curious. All these things pop up when you start thinking about you're
Right. Well,
around it.
in trucking, the other thing, the other natural is usually warehousing.
Yeah.
Would I do some sort of warehousing? And I don't care for warehousing. My brother does warehousing. God bless him. He's good at it. He can have it. The other, before I would do anything else is, or not before, but one of the other considerations would be refrigerated trucking.
Mhm.
It's another level of complexity and risk, because you can have an entire 53-foot trailer of strawberries go bad.
Right.
You're on the hook, and all of a sudden your insurance will go through the roof. You have, I do only dry van, non-hazmat freight. And once you get in refrigerated work, your risk goes up. Now, of course, your revenue would go up with it. But so that is another possible consideration, because I have people in the industry that I know that could probably turn me on to some lanes that could be worthwhile.
Yeah. And I'm sure there may even be some, if you wanted to grow, some trucking companies that may want to sell, right? I would assume some smaller.
Yeah, there are. It's interesting. I get on these lists that will email you, oh, this trucking company's for sale in New Jersey or in Florida or wherever. And it's interesting to look at it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right now, trucking is like in a bubble, like the real estate is. People are paying insane money to buy trucking companies. So it's not in a price range where I could afford to do that, unless it was the right price where I could buy the company and then have the profits pay for it.
Yeah. Right.
So yes, that would be a possible opportunity, but without my kids getting involved, I'm not sure that I would go that route.
Any other, well, you're fifth generation. So is there anyone else in the family is it going to continue on?
It's funny because my older brother, Brian, runs the family trucking company that's 140 years old.
Wow.
They were around before trucks. They were,
Yeah.
horse and wagon was how my great grandfather started. And his children are the same. There is no interest in trucking, strangely enough. And so it'll probably end with him unless things change somehow.
Ah,
It's sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Oh, and then you got the automated trucking trucks coming out in the future, right? So there will be no drivers at some point, but I'm sure
Right.
we're still a ways off, you know.
It is, but that's gonna come first before electric trucks even. I mean, electric trucks are out there now,
Hmm.
but they're primarily in warm weather, short haul scenarios. They're not set up for long haul like I do because they only run about 250 to 400 miles max on
Okay.
a charge,
Hmm.
and my trucks run 600 plus miles a day. So we would have to stop, sit in charge for 8 hours or whatever. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So there would have to be a huge structure in place, or infrastructure in place to allow a whole set of batteries to be moved out, new
Mhm.
ones put on in a matter of 30 minutes. And it'd have to be quick. And then the driver could move on. So, but the automated trucks, as you talked about, that is going to come into the long haul market soon. It already is.
Hmm.
Where because of the DOT regulations, my drivers can only drive 11 hours a day. And then by DOT law, have to shut down for 10 hours. So that truck is limited into how long it can run because of the driver. Well, add automation to it, and that goes away. The requirements go away because the driver is not physically driving the truck. He's not using that effort to do so. The requirement of 11 hours goes away, and you can use that truck significantly more. It's
Oh, yeah.
really going to help.
Nice.
But the electric trucks are going to take over the short haul, UPS type deliveries, FedEx, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I'm
It
sure.
will take that over.
Yeah. Well, enough about business. Let's talk about you. So you're from the area, or you're
I'm born and raised in Nashua, New Hampshire,
okay?
southern New Hampshire, New England. We're an hour north of Boston, and my family has been here since the 1700s.
Wow.
And in 1882, my great grandfather started moving anything with his horse and wagon from the local train station here in Nashua to anywhere it needed to go. From there, they added trucks and grew from there to now. They're a 24 truck fleet and have warehousing and even some commercial real estate. So it certainly was in my blood. I grew up in a maintenance shop. I spent most of my time there. I love being a grease monkey kind of, and I love trucks. That's my passion is trucks. I just love everything about trucking. So it's I married a local woman that I have known since seventh grade, and we have two wonderful children,
Yeah.
28 and 24, but neither one of them want to be in the business. My oldest son is in Costa Rica right now getting his master's degree in environmental policy,
Wow.
and my younger son is in the real estate business, and we just opened a property management company. So
So you got a lot going on.
we
So
do. Yes, I do. But it's great, fantastic.
yeah.
I
That
really do love it. But trucking's always been my first love. So
yeah.
I'll never get rid of trucking. It's just
Do you have a CDL? Do you drive? Do you have a CDL license or?
believe it or not, I don't. And that's terrible, I know, but I drive the trucks.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I have a huge yard where our maintenance facility is and where our parking garage is where I keep the trucks. I don't have a maintenance facility, but it's my brother's maintenance facility that he does my maintenance, and I rent garage space from him. And there's a huge yard in a dead end street. So every time I get a new truck, I've got to get in and give it a drive.
Yeah, you got to bless it.
You're right. I gotta bless it. Yeah, I love that. That's great.
In your background, I think I wrote that you have a management and information technology degree.
I do, believe it or not. I went to school and for business is what I thought I wanted to do. And I did, but I do. I love business, but I found that I have a real passion for computers. And so I ended up getting a degree in computer information systems and even left trucking for about 7 years maybe, and did IT management.
Wow.
Yeah, so I do love computers as well.
Nice. No, you got a great background, trucking, MIS, spreadsheets,
Yes,
KPIs.
love spreadsheets. Oh my gosh, I live with them. I tell my children there is no problem, no life problem that cannot be solved without a spreadsheet. So
That is true.
put it down on a spreadsheet and work it out.
Exactly. You could, I have clients that, we put on QuickBooks, but
Right.
up to that point, they were running their whole business on a spreadsheet.
Were they really?
Receivables, payables,
Yeah.
balance sheet, everything was on a
It
spreadsheet.
was on a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Now, in my computer experience, I did get into databases as well. And that's actually a whole nother level that's even more exciting.
Yeah, it is. If you like the code or queries and.
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I enjoyed that.
Well, this has kind of been cool. I enjoyed our talk. I learned a lot about the industry, and
Great.
it's interesting just hearing about your journey and where you want to take this, and that this next step, I think, with this general manager is really going to bring you, those 4 or more trucks and
Right.
free you. Sounds like it's going to free you from some of the working in the business.
Exactly.
Really kind of
Get me out of the day-to-day mundane work that I get stuck in and pop my head up out and go, okay, because if I don't do that, I'm never going to start a maintenance division.
Right.
Never going to maybe get into refrigerated work. So
yeah, no, it's true. Because it's funny. I'm listening to a book where there's a concept where when you're stressed and you're like you're deep into something, you have blinders for everything that's going around, opportunities and things that are around you. You basically close-minded to that. And as soon as you kind of get out of that mode, a la general manager running things, and you kind of can sit back, like your mind, you think differently. You see the opportunities, you see things a different way.
And that's where I believe you miss the opportunities of what you really want to be doing.
Right.
Because you get caught up in this driver had a problem, so I'm trying to help that driver. I don't want to be an HR person.
Sure.
That's not my strengths. I want to be managing this business. And if I were to die in 20 years and say, I want to be able to say, yes, I focused on the things that I was passionate about and not got stuck. Gosh, all I did was run that business for 50 years, and what a waste of time,
Right.
So
yeah.
that's an important piece to life, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good to end on that. So where can people find you? I found you on LinkedIn or through.
Yep, I am on LinkedIn. We have Macmillan. Yep, Scott Law.
Mhm.
Macmillan has a website, macmillantransport.com.
Great.
And Macmillan has a Facebook page. You can jump on Facebook and type in Macmillan Transport and you'll find us.
Awesome. No, that's all. I enjoyed our talk. I'd love to talk to you like in a year after, you get through your general.
That'd be great, Jeff.
See where you're at, do kind of like, here's what we talked about a year ago. What's happened since.
I would love that.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah. So I thank you. Just, I love this conversation. I want to thank everyone who is listening to this. If you like it, please share it or let other people know about it. Again, I want to thank you, Scott. And
thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it very much. Appreciate the opportunity. It's been fun.
It has been fun. And this has been another episode of Leaders Who Scale. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at leaderswhoscale.com. Leaders Who Scale is sponsored by Siegel Solutions, providing world-class services and cutting-edge tools that help businesses grow and succeed.